What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Iron Culture. This will be the final interview series that I've done with some of the 2025 WNBF pro athletes who had an amazing showing at Worlds. Today, it is just me, no Dr. Eric Trexler, but I am joined by Shreenath Ganesh, who is your new short, tall, classic physique world champion from WNBF Worlds. Which is pretty cool because it's a new division in the WNBF. It finally decided in 2025 that the demand was high enough and that there was a way to potentially create this class. I've had the privilege of being on a committee for the WNBF that's tried to clarify the rules, and we're working on that. And I think this year was overall pretty successful, and we got to crown our first world champions, which was an honor to see. So today I'm going to have a great conversation with Shreenath. And the reason why I wanted to specifically speak to Shreenath is because we had the privilege and honor of competing together at the WNBF 2025 Muscle Mayhem competition. And I actually talked about that a little bit on Iron Culture previously. And you might have remembered I referred to him just simply as Ganesh. I forgot his first name. I only remembered his last name. But it's appropriate because, as you guys know, Ganesh is an Indian god, and my man was on stage looking like a deity, so aesthetic. So I gave him that godhood early, and I was just simply predicting that he would maybe end up winning a world title. So my loss to Shreenath for my not getting my pro card in Classic has aged very well. Now I get to say, well, I've only lost to a world champion in Classic Physique. So no, thank you, sir, for not only coming on the podcast, but also for doing so well, because it makes me feel better about myself, which is the only thing that's important, as you know, Shreenath.
No, thank you, Eric, for having me on this podcast. It's been an honor. It's an honor and a privilege, mainly because I looked up to the Team 3DMJ altogether, looked up to a lot of your studies as well. A lot of the science I knew is because of, partly because of you and the other people. Overall, you guys are the pioneers of natural bodybuilding, from the place where I'm from, which is India. I'm honored, privileged. There's a lot of gratitude which goes into you, even inviting me onto this podcast to talk about, everything. So yeah, thank you for having me on here.
You're too kind, buddy. I appreciate those kind words. It's always gratifying to hear that we've had that kind of impact on the community. And I have some shilling to get out of the way. Since you said science, folks, if you want to support the Iron Culture presented by Mass podcast, do us a few small favors. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a like. Give us a 5-star rating if you feel like rating. If it's not a 5-star in your mind, just think about that more, ruminate, and wait until it is, or don't give us a rating at all. But in all seriousness, please do consider giving us like, rating, subscribe, review, share it with your friends. And if you really want to be an all-star supporter, if you want to follow the science and my best attempt to use my experience from coaching as an athlete and also my experience as an active researcher and science communicator, check out massresearchreview.com. That is what keeps me off the street, able to pay my mortgage and able to keep recording these podcasts. Is being able to share that research review with y'all and give you the best information possible. And finally, big shout out to our big friends over at Elite FTS, who supply the best, most reliable lifting gear. And you can use our Mass Research Review discount code, that's MRR10, over at Elite FTS to get a 10% off most of the items in their store. So big shout out to Elite FTS. So with that out of the way, I've appeased our evil corporate overlords, which is me, for my own podcast. I am really excited to talk to you, Shreenath, not only about your background, your journey this season, the experience of becoming the first inaugural world champ in your height class for the Pro Worlds and WNBF, but also to talk about the rise of natural bodybuilding in India and what that's like, because I've had an opportunity to see that in a few ways. I had the opportunity to meet Yuva Prakash when I was speaking for Techno Gym when I was in Bali, who is a very successful coach and athlete who has been bringing a lot of competitors to the stage, competes naturally, and has been trying to promote natural bodybuilding in India and abroad, who is also now part of WNBF India, which has now been launched for the first time in 2025, had a really big first show. Mm-hmm. And then only a few weeks after that in Taiwan, I had the opportunity to compete. And there were a couple athletes there who I got to meet who were just awesome people. There was Mongol Arambam, who was there with Yuva, who's his coach. He ended up having a very tight battle with Sho Sagara, who ended up taking the overall bodybuilding title. But Mongol has a pro card in all three men's categories and is competitive at the pro level, classic, men's physique, and bodybuilding. He plays second in bodybuilding. He plays top three in men's physique. And, this is a guy who just is one of those rare athletes who has the symmetry and the size and the ability to display his physique. And it was pretty cool watching him come home to Manipur, his region, and be celebrated as he was. But I also got to meet another men's physique competitor, Alex. I met him at the airport, just fresh off the airport at the hotel, and he was like, "Oh man, I need to find my food. I need to peak. What is the help me out here?" And I was like, "Hey man, here's the cheat code. I judged here last year. I know where you can train." I took him over to 7-Eleven. I was like, "Hey man, they got chicken breast here. They got this." So we hooked the boy up, and he looked really good. He peaked very well at that show, and that was the most competitive men's physique lineup I think this year in any show. I would put forth that in the WNBF besides Worlds. So that was a rough spot to do his pro debut, but he held his own. He looked great, and just a big shout out to him, to Yuva, to Mongol, and every single person I've met has just been really kind and very respectful, and I think a great representative for the sport, which has been really cool to see. I just want to give a shout out to WNBF India and everyone else, and you've been no exception to that. So I would love to hear more about your background. So you're currently living in Vancouver, but you are originally from India, and we got to compete at the Mayhem, and you represented hard for your country. You also became a double pro, and I want to give you a shout out here because amateur and pro are not clear distinctions in natural bodybuilding. Like, as an example, I won my pro card as the second pro card of only two that were given out in a moderate sized show. There's about just under 100 athletes in WNBF Australia, and the panel decided there was a good enough field of bodybuilders to give out two pro cards. But there were 10 total open bodybuilders, and they gave out two pro cards, right? It was a very high caliber class because it brought out the best in Australia and Asia and New Zealand. So I don't want to downplay my own accomplishment. But as an example, at Taiwan on the amateur day, there were close to 100 total bodybuilders, and they gave out 3 pro cards. So there's levels to this. And Shreenath, you went to the Muscle Mayhem, which is one of the most competitive shows on the West Coast that's gotten more competitive now that it's moved to November because people are seeking that last opportunity to qualify for Worlds. They're in better shape. And you didn't just beat amateurs to get both your bodybuilding and your classic card. Shout out to my man, Josh Bradshaw. He is a WNBF Classic Pro, and he was looking to try to get his bodybuilding pro card. He won his class. You faced him in the overall, and you did it right after facing me because I won the tall class. You won the short class. And I said to Josh, I gave him a fist bump because we know each other. He's done his master's degree. He's an active researcher. He's a great guy. We competed together at the Washington in 2023. And it was really cool to see him get his pro card in Classic, and he has great lines. And I was like, hey, man, I'm going to try to get him. But if I don't, you got to do it. And then after you beat both of us in 2 back-to-back overalls, I went up to Josh and I was like, well, we tried, buddy. So you actually beat a pro bodybuilder to get your classic card, and you beat a pro classic athlete to get your bodybuilding pro card. And then you went on to Worlds, got tighter, and you actually won your weight class at the World Championships in the inaugural classic division. So and you looked substantially better. Like you did some hard work in those 2 weeks, and I think it paid off. I don't know that you would have been able to clinch that title if you presented exactly the way you had at the Mayhem. So big shout out to you. Big shout out to Yuva, who I believe is your coach. but talk to us about this season's journey from your perspective. I've sang your praises because I know it's hard for you to do so, but you absolutely deserve it. And athletes like you have a story to tell, and you know what? Iron Culture wants to hear it.
Thank you, Eric. Um, kind words there. I think, yeah, this season, there was no season. To be honest, I started off as a mini cut because I was, it was a patch of life which I was going through, the peaks and valleys, and I was at my lows in that time. I also felt like I was hitting a point where I was starting to get insulin resistant as well. You go through the motions and you're not getting a pump, and you feel like you've reached a certain level of body fat, and you're looking at yourself in the mirror, and you're like, okay, something has to be done, something has to be changed. So I started a mini cut basically in the beginning of May. And I said to myself, let me get down to 165. 165 is my sweet spot. I was at 174, 173, 174. Let me drop 9 pounds. Let me get down to 165. Then I had a cruise which was booked up a while ago by my father-in-law. I mean, I can't ask for a better human being. He does a lot for me. I got a cruise booked up in July, the June, July, and I had a European trip in June. So in this, started off in May, and the 7-month prep had 2 vacations. So I started off in May, lost about 9 pounds before I went on that vacation to Europe. Visited my brother, had a lot of fun. It's Germany, no shortage of sweets. Everywhere you go, there is food, really good desserts as well. So what I did was I tried to balance it out and work out at my brother's gym. I was trying, when I came back, I was at the same weight, which was, couldn't ask for a better result. I was 165. When I went, I was 165 when I came back home. And I kept up with all of my supplements and my creatine and everything like that. Just mentally tracking, not really in the sense of going to MyFitnessPal and stressing over it. So it's just mentally tracking. Oh, this is this, and this is this, and I should be at 3K, and I'm doing this many steps. And glad I was able to maintain it. I didn't check my weight for 2 weeks, and I was pleasantly surprised when I maintained it. So I came back, and then I told myself, well, I'm getting somewhere here. I look good. I'm getting somewhere here. So let me just get in touch with Yuva, because Yuva, I've known him for years. Ever since he got up on simplyshredded.com. I don't know if you know the blog. It's back in the day.
I've been on Simply Shredded, man.
Yeah, I've seen you too. I've seen Yuva, I've seen Aaron Curtis, and all of those OG natty bodybuilders on there. So Yuva had an article there. So I've been following him since then. And he was initially being trained by Aaron Curtis as well, who I used to be a big fan of. So I followed him for years, and then he was bringing in athletes, and he brought Golap, his other athlete from India, with shredded glutes, and I was like, man, an Indian coach, natural, bringing in athletes with shredded glutes. I was like, okay, now we are talking. Let's go. That's what I said. I said to myself, let's go. Finally, someone is doing it properly. And then I had a conversation with him 2 years ago. I probably pissed him off because I gave him the feeler that I was going to compete and didn't really compete. And then 2 years later, I reached out to him and I said, hey man, let's do it. Let's do it this time. Let's take it slowly. Let's see where we can go. And if we are able to do a show, let's do a show. And that's what happened. We started off in June. I took 3 weeks of diet break. Just going up to maintenance, and I was hovering around 165 as well. And then I started my cut. I came back down to 159, 158, 159, and I had to go on a cruise to Alaska, which was booked a year in advance. So I can't really cancel it, right? So I don't want to cancel it. Not like I want to cancel it. It's just that it was with family as well. So I wanted to spend that family time. It was quite comical on the ship because you really have to wait for the ship to dock for you to measure your weight. Otherwise, the weight is all like that. So nothing was. It was a very, very. There's a lot of things I learned and while on that ship. My resiliency, I chose the foods where I knew the macros for. I still follow the macros. I still was able to get off of get off the ship, go to a grocery shop, get chicken and everything like that, come back. So I saw myself having a lot of discipline, and I actually dropped a pound that week. So overall was really happy. And once that was out of the way is when I really started getting serious about um the prep. You can call it a prep. That's when the real prep started. So okay, there's muscle mayhem coming. And he told Yuva it's the biggest, second biggest apart from Worlds, toughest show to go. And what better way to make a debut than doing the toughest show for amateurs, on the West Coast. So we decided to do it. I came back down from, I lost another 10 pounds. I lost another 7, 8 pounds, got down to 151 before the mayhem. And then realized that I had more weight to lose. I would consider it. We were talking about using it as a trial show to see how we had zero data to go with. I had zero data about myself. I didn't have anything to go with. So we were just like, okay, let's use this as a learning opportunity. We learned quite a bit. We had 2 refeed days after getting down to 151. I had 400 grams of carbs one day, 400 grams of carbs the second day. Peaked really well. Ideally, one day would have been great because the Friday of the weekend, I was looking insane on the mirror. And then let's just do one more 400 day to test it out to see whether you spill or whether you hold water, whatever it is. The next day, I was still looking good. But then once the stage shots came in, we realized that, okay, we have to drop another 2 to 3 pounds. And then, I went on to win the pro card, which I was there just as this fanboy in the backstage area, looking at people and being like, hey man, I used to follow you. And looking at Eddie in person was sick, man. Eddie was brutal. Like I've never seen someone like that in my life before. I had a great conversation with Eddie, and just meeting people, just going around walking and meeting people. I was this guy who was handing out the water bottles. If you've seen a cricket match, you go in between and you hand the water bottles. That was me. But it was just humbling, and it was great to experience that backstage, and then finally to go on stage and just experience the camaraderie. Because that's something which you don't experience anywhere. It's difficult for people to understand that who have not gotten on stage. So that was very, very cool. I went on to win the pro cards again. And wife was also there, which was really cool. She got to see her first bodybuilding competition. So that was really good experience. And then going back to the drawing board, because we had zero time. I had one Mexican meal post show. I made sure it was Mexican because I didn't want to binge, and that's the only meal I had. That's the only cheat meal I've had at that point, and since I started prepping. Even in Germany, I wasn't really doing anything out of the norm. I was just still being disciplined with what I ate. So it was really cool to get that mental break for lasted 5 minutes, but had the Mexican food, and then we went back to the drawing board, and I came back down to 147.5 from 151. So it's a 3.5 pound loss in about 2 weeks. The hardest phase of my life was those 2 weeks. I would be lying if I said that I was just chilling. The other side of it, Eric, is also, I think, a topic which needs to be touched on is doing a 9 to 5 transiting and managing people at workplace, and managing the diet and doing a depletion phase, and then peaking and keeping the cortisol levels to a minimal was quite the experience. It was possibly the toughest phase of my life. There were a lot of people who helped me during that phase as well, even at the workplace. The workplace was also kind enough to, be more flexible with how I was. And this is me being grumpy all the time. And those 2 weeks were really rough. barely any food. I was getting angry really quick. Not angry. I was getting triggered really quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then going to Worlds again, no expectations, like I don't even I say it's Worlds. Hey, I'm just this kid from India. I don't know much about it. Went there and the caliber of athletes was just insane. Like, I gotta say the bodybuilding was on another level. I don't even need to talk about it. Everyone can see the photos. And when the official photos come in, that's when you will see the caliber of athletes on there. I'm almost glad that I didn't get into bodybuilding. I listened to Bob. Um, and then I went on to the classic. I competed in classic, and backstage, these guys are insane.
Yeah.
I was like, what did I get myself into? I was telling my wife, I don't even know. And I was going through the typical, sports person anxiety backstage where it's like, oh, I'm going to lose anyway. So, that kind of a thing. So a lot of me playing with myself, with my mind and going in and ruminating. That was happening a lot, but my wife and my father-in-law played a pivotal role in keeping me level-headed. But yeah, these athletes were insane. And I had no expectations. I went on stage and I was dead center and I was like, okay, something is happening here. And then I went on to win it, which was amazing. And it still hasn't sunken in yet. And I think it will sink in once my hormones kick back in. And I am starting to get a little bit emotional, so they are coming back. So um, it's a surreal experience for someone from India. Even though I'm in Canada right now, I'm still an Indian at heart. A lot of the values um showcasing is because of how I grew up and my parents and everything. And just from that part of the world where 2010s there was no natural bodybuilding, there was zero natural bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And I took that way. I put the belief in myself and I took the right calculated decision that natural bodybuilding is the route I want to take. And I am okay with delayed gratification. And I'm okay if I achieve something 10, 15 years down the line. For a 23, 22, no, I was 19 years old, but I took this decision at 22, 23. I'm super proud of that particular decision I made. Regardless of all of these different, things I'm winning right now, that one particular decision I made at that time, being kind of immature, like 22, 23, is still not really knowing what the world is. A lot of people make rash decisions. I'm super happy about the fact that I made that calculated decision. And now I'm reaping the benefits of it. There's still a lot of work to do, but winning the worlds is possibly winning the mayhem was a dream come true. Winning the worlds is one of the biggest achievements of my life. Yeah, so that kind of summarizes how the season went.
Man.
Yeah, it's a surreal experience which I'm shown gratitude, a lot of happiness. And not a lot of people get to do this. But I am doing this. And I have a wonderful family around me who's supporting me through this. So I couldn't ask for a better scenario than just show gratitude that this is and live in the moment that this is happening for me and I'm going to enjoy it to the fullest and look forward and apply the principles of what I've learned from this to life and move forward. So that's how the season went for me.
What an amazing journey, an amazing message, and a well-earned perspective and an outcome. I'm so happy for you, and I love how grounded you are and how you can reflect. So you said you made that decision in your early 20s. How old are you now, and how long have you been training, Shreenath?
So I'm 34 years old. Um, it's also difficult to say that I'm 34 years old because I don't feel like it, but I am on paper. I started lifting weights when I was 18 or 19, somewhere in there. Um, so it's been about 15 to 16 years that I've been lifting.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
that's
that's
possibly the only thing which has stuck with me. Yeah.
and I think that's a great perspective for people. For those who are not familiar with natural bodybuilding, and like you said, delayed gratification, it takes a monumental amount of work to build this. And that's probably why backstage, especially at natural bodybuilding shows, but I would say in bodybuilding generally, but I do notice it a bit more, especially in the natural side of the sport. The camaraderie is huge. And people can look at each other and they know, like, man, this took a lot to get here. And that's something that immediately attracted me to the sport when I did my first season all the way back in '07. So you've only done a total of 3 shows, is that right?
Yes. So I did one local show here. It's called the Van City Showdown. That was also because it's not like I wanted to go on stage. My coach was like, "Hey man, like you look good enough. Just go on stage and see what you can do." I was a watery mess. I was still holding a lot of fat, but it was a good way to test where I've come so far. Zero posing practice, nothing. It was a first show post COVID, so there was nothing to really do, or there's not really any room to do anything. So I did place first in my novice class, and then I placed second in the division, open division. So and then I placed last in the overall. So there's not a lot of people there, but it was a good experience. There was no one in the crowd. It was very weird. There was just a commentator sitting there. It was live streamed as well. So um and then yeah, this is my first you can call it real show, Mayhem, and then the World. So total 3 shows, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So you had that just post-COVID experience on stage, and obviously it was enough for you to be like, oh, I'm going to do this again. You got bit
Yeah.
by the not just the iron
But
bug, but the competitive bodybuilding bug, which means you are one of us crazy few folks. And to achieve this in just your second season, obviously, 15 years plus of lifting under your belt, dedication, desire, and planning and thinking ahead, goes a long way. But I think it's just commendable that you were able to achieve what you did in just your second competitive season. So, no, hats
thank you.
off. No, and obviously you're a student of the sport. Um, I'm always honored when people talk to me about having an impact, because when you record content, when you jump on podcasts, uh, it's not like it was 15, even 20 years ago, where if you are reaching a lot of people, you actually physically see them, and you do it on platforms that are a little more engaging in kind of the proto social media. These days, it sometimes just kind of feels like I'm yelling into the void and just hoping it has an impact. So to see some of those things, I'll put it this way, I really relish the opportunity anytime I can go physically to shows, because I get to interact with people who I'm attempting to help. And often I am pleasantly surprised that I have made an impact. And that's something that it feels better than any title to know that I've been uplifting the community that has given me so much. So I get emotional just seeing folks like you who do well and even attribute a small amount of their positive experience with the sport. Not even their success, but just that they found balance with it. It's sustainable, and it's been a force in their life that, at least for the most part, most of the time, has been a good thing. So for you to say how much of these achievements mean to you is really cool to hear. So thank you for sharing that. Now, I do want to transition and talk about kind of the rise of India. So I'll tell you, as someone who grew up in the States and has now been in New Zealand, and who has truly gotten to travel around the world only because of bodybuilding, I've had a lot of conversations, and I've also coached people from all around the world, with people from, the Indian subcontinent. And they've had some really interesting perspectives that I want to talk to you about. And we talked a little bit about this off air. So it seems like there's a lot of push-pulls in your culture to where there's high expectations, kind of like we see on like television, or we hear from our Asian friends. If you're white like me, like, you don't know the pressures I get from my parents, like if I get an A minus, why was it an A plus? If I get an A plus, they say nothing and go, yeah, you should have gotten that, earlier, or something like that. Or, but at the same time, it's also a crowded, it's a challenging place to grow up. You have to stand out. It's a capitalist country, in which I relate to some degree, coming from the U.S. You feel like It's crabs in a barrel. You've got to be able to. I don't mean capitalist like in a bad way, or or a purely economic statement. I mean it more kind of philosophically. It's like we're all in a rat race together, and I think it's probably more true. And there's greater wealth disparities there, and I've seen kind of this need for self promotion, but at the same time, this underlying sense of you need to be humble, you need to not be arrogant, and needing to stand out, needing to promote yourself, and also kind of operating in almost this business transaction like way of, if I'm going to promote someone, I need to get something out of it because it's a dog eat dog world out there. And I have to be humble, and I have to achieve high, and I have to be respectful. And there's a certain degree of a hierarchical community, which, again, this is all stuff I'm repeating secondhand. It's not just me judging or saying I understand a culture that I've never been a part of. And I've seen that when I teach fitness professionals. When I was in Bali, there was a huge disparity of levels of education. I had people who had only lifted weights, to people who had MDs and who were physical therapists and 20 years of training under their belt. And they were explaining how difficult it was to foster critical thinking because most of the time it's like you find your guru, they tell you what to do, and that's it. You don't question it. Coach is the boss, or the educator is the boss. You memorize things in school. So to be able to challenge someone else, it's more about I have to exert myself as being the higher hierarchy, and then what I say is just true, and you have to accept it. And if you ask me a question, it's disrespectful. So it seemed like it was a big challenge for some of these educators from the region who were coming to the educational events to pass it on, because they weren't just passing on information; they had to pass on some things which didn't connect to their culture, which was rooted in a caste system. Or had certain regions having different influences, religious and cultural divides, and it was a really eye-opening thing for me to see, and the push and pull. And I also had the opportunity to talk to Jeet Salal, who about 10 years ago was really trying to push natural bodybuilding, like you said, coming out of an era where it didn't even exist 4 or 5 years later, and having everyone doubt people's natural status, and also having a lot of people who weren't actually natural trying to claim and be natural, because the assumption was, okay, natural is just something we say so our mom and dad is proud of us or community accepts it, but really we're all on gear. And just how easy and commonplace access to anabolics and PEDs are. I can't tell you how many trainers told me, look, in my gym, someone signs up and they go, okay, cool, here's your cardio plan, here's your nutrition plan, and here's creatine, and here's some clen. Like it's just that common, and that it's accessible. It's not something that's a legal issue, and so I think it's a really important time in India where it's important to platform true natural bodybuilding so people know what's possible. I'm so glad that WWF India is there, and I'm so glad that I've seen natural champions like yourself, Mongol, coaches like Yuva, athletes like Alex, and the growth of the sport. And again, because all due respect to Jeet, but when we were talking, I could tell just how burned out he was from the efforts he made and how cynical he had become, which is completely understandable. And I really hope that he can look up and see, oh, wow, it's been 10 years, things have changed a little bit, and there is still hope, and other people can take it forward, but that things can move in the right direction. So basically, I just want to give you the opportunity. Are the perspectives that I've shared, is that accurate? Am I giving too much of a Western view? And tell me in your own words, what is it like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you are you hit the nail on the head. You were bang on about every single detail. It's actually very unique for someone to be bang on about every single thing. It's a very hierarchical approach. Unfortunately, it's a fight. Everything is a fight. The coaches are like, I'm the better coach. I'm the better coach. I'm the better coach, just to get business. It's been like that for the longest time. Although the environment I grew in, the people I was surrounded by, it was not so much. And there was a level of that in existence, but they don't talk about it. You just see it. You just see it happen through people's behaviors, right? So, this is my student. They use the word student, and I've never been a fan of that. I'm not your student. right? I don't like to be called a student because you're just giving me a training program. You're not like teaching the scientifics behind it, right? So they call their clients. They don't call them clients, which is a very Western term. They call them students. The coach is the teacher. It's similar to how things operate in a school. The teacher has to tell the student. If the student doesn't follow it, the teacher will reprimand the student. It's the same approach. It's still being followed today to some extent, from what I'm seeing. So it's a very hierarchical approach. You have to really shout yourself from the rooftops, if I can use the term boasting. You got to do some level of that to stand out in the crowd, because there is a lot of other coaches who are misleading. So you want to make sure that there's also a little bit of the help factor. You want to help people, but in order to help people, you have to promote yourself. It's like you have to do PR for yourself. And unfortunately, it's turned into something where people have to talk about themselves, shout about themselves from the rooftops to do that. Because there's a lot of crap. It's a billion people. There's going to be a lot of people who don't know what they're doing, and they lead people into these unhealthy states. Some people have died. It's like drug overdose, and then all of this stuff happens, and it's more like you want to help them, but at the same time, if you don't promote yourself or behave in a way where you get out there, you're not going to help these people. So it's like it's a very, very unique, peculiar situation to be in, right? So that's the one side of the hierarchical approach. So you are not wrong about that. That's absolutely true. Now, with the natural bodybuilding side of things, a lot of there is from the area where I grew up in, I was surrounded by a lot of people. I've been to different gyms. I've been to at least 10, 15 gyms in my 5 years of being back home and lifting weights. I didn't find one single guy who lied about using. Everyone was very honest about it. Everyone was open about what they were using. They were talking to me about what they were using. So I wouldn't say there were a lot of. I couldn't find a single fake nadi. I personally couldn't. I feel like in today's world, it's just a matter of people complaining about other people because they can't focus on what they want to do. This is a big problem in the Indian community. Focus on what you can control. Don't focus on the things which you can't control. If someone is lying out there, let them lie and let them figure it out in their own way. You focus on your own thing. If you want to promote natural bodybuilding, which is what I love Yuva, like I really like that particular attribute in Yuva, is because he doesn't focus on the fact that someone is using and hone in on them and create a negative conversation about it. He doesn't do that. He just be like, let them figure it out. I'm gonna do what I can control. This is what I can control. I'm gonna promote natural bodybuilding, and I'm gonna promote it to the best of my ability through my athletes, through whatever platform I have. Right? I'm not gonna focus on that. I feel like we don't have many people like that. That's the path we want to take. Which has been missing in the Indian subcontinent. Control what we can control, and let the chips fall for other people the way they are meant to be falling in. So there's a whole lot of bashing which happens. Like if you take the Indian natural bodybuilding community, this person bashes this person bashes this person. Everything is for clout. Because if you're going to earn money in the online space, it's a big deal. So everyone bashes everyone. There's barely any uplifting for upcoming young talents. There's a lot of talent in the natural bodybuilding space in India. There's no doubt about it. And unless the mentality is more like, if I'm giving you something, you need to provide me something. And that has been since the time I started lifting, because there was no sponsorships. There is no sponsorships. I, in fact, sponsored a couple of my friends when I came to the States. I bought them supplements, and when I came to Canada, I sent money back home to these guys to whatever I can, like $100, $200, which is a lot of sum of money. So I sent them this money Not to say that I did it. It took someone like me to recognize the talent in them and be like, let me uplift them. That is not there. A lot of the supplement companies, a lot of the supplement shops, they have that mentality that business, if I'm giving you business, I need to get business in return. Otherwise, I'm not even going to pay attention to you. So it's kind of the mentality which is still a lot of it is still in existence, unfortunately. Yeah, so that's the other side of the equation, is a lot of the talent, natural bodybuilding talent, or just talent in general, um, don't get the recognition they deserve, because it's always this dogfight, or this business kind of a mentality. So the uplifting piece of it, unless someone who is like what we term as private investor or a venture capitalist coming and uplifting a company, someone has to step in and uplift these people, with no expectations, right? And that is how things can move forward. And I know you has done a lot. I do a lot, whatever I can, wherever I can. I see people, I identify people, I still talk to people back home and ask if they need help. So unless we do something like that, there's no sponsorships. Unless you have a contact, you're not going to get a sponsorship. So you got to spend your own money, and it's very expensive. It is super expensive. The amount of income you're going to get versus the expenditure you're having, the ratio is way off. So it's a very, very a difficult. Natural bodybuilding is even more difficult because of the amount of money you have to spend, and the lack of sponsorships. The dark side of bodybuilding has a lot of sponsorships, because it's more prevalent. Natural bodybuilding, there's no trust. There's no trust that someone is natural. So that all of that is what summarizes the Indian natural bodybuilding community. There's a lot of talent, but there's very little help. Very little exposure to these people. But WNBF India is coming there, which hopefully, and I've seen the standard they've held themselves to, which is very, very good. You guys doing a great job as well in holding the standard. So I'm hopeful that it propels forward, and more of these companies sponsor these athletes, provide them with some level of a platform to grow the sport, and keep it a lot more healthy than what it is right now.
No, that's such great insight. I really appreciate you sharing that perspective, because I think given that you are now like a representative as a world champion from that country, I think your voice is probably going to have a lot of impact. And if we can get that message out,
Hopefully.
and shift, yeah, hopefully, right? It should. Let me say that. So hopefully we can get that message out. I think one thing I am actually pretty confident in stating, because it's something I've experienced as a coach of some people from India, is that, and also having moved from the States to New Zealand, which is still, a westernized, a country in a similar vein, and then also traveled around the world, is that sometimes people from the mainstream bodybuilding community in the West don't understand how much privilege there is in the ease of approaching it, the cost of gym memberships, the ubiquity of gym access that is open at reasonable hours, that is easy to get into, that is affordable, the cost of living relative to the income for what you simply make, and that someone who is from even a lower socioeconomic status, like if you're lower middle income and you're blue collar in the States, it's not hard to find an affordable gym membership, and it's not hard to eat healthy. But man, some of the challenges, like the first time you try to give just a basic if it fits your macros approach to someone from another country, and you go, yeah, let's hit 50 fat, 200 protein, and they're like, coach, that is almost impossible here. Our entire diet consists of like rice and curry, and there's a day where nobody eats meat because it's too expensive, and the meat that we do eat is really high in fat, and it's cooked in this way, and I can't get reliable access to really like not even just clean foods, like clean and dirty. I mean, like actually clean, hygienic foods is something that I think a lot of Westerners just have no concept of. And I am very fortunate that bodybuilding has given me the opportunity to travel and to try to stay on track while I'm in places like Indonesia and some parts of Asia are first world countries for sure, but other parts are not. And so I feel fortunate to have had those opportunities and to see
And
like
I've gone through
barriers.
that as well. Yeah, I've
Right,
gone
because
through
you
that.
because you lived in the States, you lived in Canada, you're like, oh man, this is easy mode, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I'm in easy mode right now, and I keep telling people that the amount of that leads me into the thing which I mentioned earlier on. I wanted to say the story behind it, if I can.
please.
So yeah, 2010 is when I started. 2009, 2010. I exactly. You hit the nail in the head again. No access to proper food, right? It's rice, and I come from a vegetarian family. Non-veg is like a strict no-no, right?
And this is why, sorry to interrupt you, but this is why, because I think a lot of Americans might roll their eyes and it's like, oh, you gotta buy supplements. I'm like, dude, whey protein is like a godsend over there because the only way
Oh my
you're
God.
gonna be able to hit your protein targets if you're eating locally, and people don't understand that. It's really
Yep.
expensive, and a lot of the times the local supplement companies you can't necessarily trust what they're giving you. So if you want a
Right.
high
Yeah.
quality, reliable whey protein, which is probably the only way you're going to get over 100 grams of protein per day, then it's actually critical. And, the average American is like, well, just get some boneless, skinless chicken breast at Safeway. I'm like, dude, that's not an option. So anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt, but like when I had some athletes who got like an international sponsorship for protein and they're getting protein shipped out, it was like all of a sudden they were like, oh, I can finally like actually get to like 1.5 grams per kilogram of
Mm.
protein per day. But anyway, I don't want to interrupt you, but I know just because of I know what American thinks when they hear that and they don't get it, and hopefully that helps them. But anyway, you go ahead, tell your
Yeah.
story.
Hopefully, I can paint the picture of how much struggles I went through. Again, you are right. In the sense where I had zero access to supplement shops. There was maybe one or two supplement shops in 2010 in the entire city of nearly 15 million people. Um,
Wow.
15. Chennai was a city of, now it's 18 to 20 million people. Back then, it was around 15. There were only like two or three supplement shops which are trusted, right? And they were nowhere close to my home. And no money as well. And there's no chicken breast. So what I did was I put up a contract. I put up a contract back in 2011 and 2012 with this chicken shop that every day they got to deliver me 1 kilo of chicken breast. 750 grams to 1 kilo of chicken breast. They got to deliver me that. And I put a contract. I talked to him verbally and I put a verbal contract with him. So every day he will come and deliver me. That was the only chicken shop which had chicken breast in the entire area. There was no people. And even if they have chicken, they won't cut out the breast and give it to you because it is like that they don't have that much of a supply. So I put this deal with this guy and he delivered it to me continuously for 3 years. Between 2011 and 2013, that's 3 years of every single day, 750 grams of chicken breast. And I had no idea of macros and anything like that. So I just went on a Lee Priest kind of a bulk. So I had 750 grams of chicken breast, and then I had to have whey protein and creatine and a pre-workout. Those are the three supplements I had. Multivitamins, I just go to the medical shop and get it. They were cheaper. So for getting the whey protein, it was a monumental task. Zero money, and they were super expensive. So my mom, who's no longer with us today, she used to spend half of her salary on this because as kids we are not allowed to work. If I go and tell my dad that I want to work and make my own money, dad will be like, "Nah, you could sit down, son. If you go out and work, you're gonna do whatever you want with that money. So you better sit down and obey the rules, right?" That's how it was back in the day. So my mom spent half of her salary on my bodybuilding passion. because I said, this is what I want to do. I want to be a personal trainer, which was a mindless thing to do at that time. Um, so, and I had to hitch a ride halfway across the city to get a box of protein. To get a box of protein, I had to hitch a ride. I used to take an auto, which was monumental. Like an auto ride would cost nearly 300 rupees or something like that. When the protein box, entire 5 tub of protein is like 3,200 rupees. So you spend 10% of the cost on just the transit. Um, so half the time I have to talk to my friends or hitch a ride, go to get the supplements, and then come back on a Saturday. Um, that would itself set 10,000 rupees. It's very expensive. 10,000 rupees is a lot of money back in the day. And then chicken breast, which is another 10,000 rupees. So 20,000 rupees monthly was spent on my just the proteins alone. And apart from that, you would have the multivitamins, all of this stuff to supplement. And that was another 200, 300 rupees, 400 rupees, something like that. So yeah, nearly half of her salary she spent on it. And I'm glad to, in a way, I'm glad that I'm able to provide the results of that to her. She's no longer with me, but I know she's watching. But it's a full circle for me, full circle moment for me. And my brother also played a role when I came to the US. When I came to the US, I was like this kid, and I came alone, which was first time in a flight. I came alone to the US, Clemson University, which is a big university. Love Clemson. And when I before I came, I started mapping out where the grocery shops are. I started mapping what is in Walmart, what is in the local store, and all of that stuff. I marked it on maps and all of that stuff. Came here, I didn't even go home. I went straight to Walmart from the airport. It's the first time in the US. I went straight to Walmart, got a gallon jug of zero fat milk because I'm a zero fat milk. Oh my God. I got an entire box of whey. And then I got a bunch of Pop Tarts and all of this stuff because I was watching a lot of Matt August and Team 3DMJ back in the day. And Matt August was big on Pop Tarts at the time. He was also big on Chipotle. So that's the other thing. He always used to have the Chipotle burrito. So here is me in the US getting all of this stuff, not even going home, just going to Walmart and then going home. It was like a brand new world for me, as you said. People don't realize the amount of hardships that generation and the previous generation had to go through to even make it anything in natural bodybuilding. A lot of people started using drugs because they can't do this. They can't afford, 750 grams of chicken breast a month. And a month supply of testosterone was only 3,000 rupees back in the day.
So drugs are cheaper than protein. I think people need to understand that as kind of the reality that is going to be so foreign to them if they come from the West, to understand even just some of the culture that you're dealing with, because people don't get this stuff. So I'm so glad that you're sharing this on the platform.
Yeah, so basically, to summarize this, drugs were costing less than protein and chicken breast. So a lot of people ventured into the dark side primarily because they can't afford this. Like a couple of people who I talked to, the chicken breast is too expensive. Testosterone is 250 mg. You take a week, you're gonna spend 3,000 rupees a month. And I'm like, okay, I mean, it is what it is. So it was very things have improved quite a bit. And I think there's dramatic changes in how the city has developed. In terms of Greek yogurt, there's Greek yogurt now. There is zero fat cottage cheese now, and I am like, where was this 5-6 years ago, 10 years ago? So yeah, it's grown leaps and bounds, but that was the amount of difficulty we have to go through, and that generation, even you had to go through, to get to this point. So yeah, it's a full circle to reap those rewards a decade and a half later. Delayed gratification, it brings so much joy. So that was the environment I grew up in.
No, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. as someone who comes from a very different and thankfully easier background, like I have actually really enjoyed my time making it work in other countries because it's made me better. Um, so, for example, I share one of my guilty pleasures is everywhere I go, I figure out how would I live the bodybuilding lifestyle if I had to live here. So
Yep.
when I was in Taipei, it's not that hard. They got world gyms everywhere. You can find some places like it's basically a first world country. The language barrier is the hardest thing for America. It's not even basically a first world country. Taiwan is a first world country. Its medical care system is better than the U.S. For on average for people, but it was certain things were challenging. Like Chinese food is hard, just like Indian cuisine to make work. So you kind of have to go to specialty places. But then once you figure out that 7-Eleven, you can get like sweet potato and chicken breast, it's just, a little higher in sodium because it's packaged, you're good to go. Once you learn a little bit of the language, once you figure out where you can go, which gyms are what, like I was good. I was like, oh, I'm solid, easy. Being in like rural Spain was a little different. Traveling into Indonesia was a lot different. I'm glad Brandon Kempter showed me around, and he showed me how he goes and gets local fruit and veg. Yes, he is. He's a good man. So seeing how he's made it work in Indonesia was actually really cool. And I love going into crappy gyms, and I say crappy with all due respect, but like these gyms that are operating on a shoestring budget. They've been around forever. They're not air conditioned. The people who are there, they look at me when I come in. They're like, "Who is this 6-foot white dude training here? And where did he come from? Like, am I looking at YouTube?" And they're all training with like mismatched dumbbells. They've got a mixture of like the standard size barbell and not, and some like machines that barely work, and some machines I'm like, oh shit, that's a Nautilus machine from the 80s. And I'm like, I get excited because trying to figure out how to have the best workout possible within those constraints, how I would support my diet. I really enjoy that because it makes you more resilient in other environments, and it ensures that you can function anywhere. But I think there's a lot of bodybuilders who they're like, they're used to having the best equipment available. They're super snooty, like, oh, not this stuff. And they don't realize. Yeah, exactly. Everything's Panada, Gym 80 or Prime equipment. If it's not that, like, are you even a serious gym? And they expect to be able to go to the grocery store and find something that is 70 calories but 15 grams of protein, no problem. And that fresh fruit and vegetables that you can reliably get anywhere is just normal. And it is in the States, and that's great. And I'm not saying that anyone is, like a bad person for having access to it or taking advantage of it. I do. But knowing the kind of physiques that come out of Asia and the kind of physiques that come out of the Middle East, certain regions, like I hate this, like I don't want people to think like Asia is one thing. Like it's incredibly diverse. Like if you go to Vietnam versus Singapore, you're going to have a very different experience, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, my point is that there are certain regions throughout the world that the bodybuilders who come out of there, you look at them and you're like, oh man, what a freak. You need to have a healthy level of respect for what they've achieved given the constraint in their lifestyle. And you don't know what they've gone through. And they don't know what you've gone through. And I'm not saying it isn't hard, but I am really impressed by the growth of natural bodybuilding in Asia as a whole, and also the respect that it gets in certain communities. Like it was really cool to see Mongol go back to Manipur and get like a motorcade procession of celebration. And he became the prodigal son of his region. And it was really cool. I won't keep harping on it, but when I was in Taiwan, just seeing how natural bodybuilding was almost like a mainstream sport, and how people wanted me to sign their autographs who never knew me. They weren't someone who followed me for 3DMJ. And it just makes me so hopeful for the future, not only in Asia, but for natural bodybuilding as a whole. So thank you so much for sharing this experience, because I think truly natural bodybuilding as a global community should come together. And I think it can uplift itself. And there's so many opportunities for companies in the West to uplift some of these athletes in this region, and for collaboration. And a big shout out to the WNBF for being able to expand and have 60 regional affiliates, and now to have a true world championships that's actually going to Calgary next year. And I know that I know you will, and I'm sure you'll be promoting and all that stuff. So I'm really excited for the future, and I think that's the final question I want to ask you after you've so generously given your time, Srinath. Is so you've won a world title, you've had a breakout season that I know is still sinking in. I know your background, and I know that you not only want to succeed as an athlete, but also to support the community. You've been sending money back home. You've been giving props and respect to other people. I think you're an incredible example, incredible ambassador, and you're the exact type of person that I'm glad has won a world title to do that. What does the future hold for you?
Interesting. Well, I've been thinking about that myself as well. I do want to help people back home. That's the first thought which comes to my mind is I said this to my mom when I was young, when I started out, that I want to promote natural bodybuilding. Because everyone around me is taking drugs, everyone around me is popping pills and injections. I don't want to be the guy. I want to promote natural bodybuilding. I remember talking about this to my brother too. The first and foremost, the reason why I wanted to be a personal trainer was to promote natural bodybuilding. So, if there is an opportunity or a platform, and me through social media, if I am able to promote natural bodybuilding and uplift athletes, and I think that's an important thing which I want to do as a service format. If I find an athlete who is talented, who has a talent, who has a work ethic, and is finding it hard financially, then I want to be the guy who is stepping in and helping him financially, even if no supplement companies or anything like that is sponsoring him, which is going to be an ongoing problem in my opinion. So I want to be the person who steps in. I want to empower people to take up this natural bodybuilding route, and I also want to promote natural bodybuilding in India and say that, hey guys, stop seeking instant gratification. Put your head down, stop seeing social media and comparing yourself with other people. Gain a little bit of fat because fat is going to help with putting on muscle. Do that for years and then step on stage or do whatever you want to do at that point, right? So the message is pretty simple. I want what I want to put out. I also want to promote natural bodybuilding and also help natural bodybuilding athletes. That's kind of how I envision my future to be in this particular field.
I think that's a fantastic message. I think it's a fantastic goal. As far as your own competitive future, when do you think you're going to get on stage again? Are you going to take an off season? What do you see as now it's man, the cool thing is you are the first world champion in classic physique for the WNBF. But now what we're going to see is that as those ranks fill, it's only going to get more and more competitive. So are you thinking, oh, I got to defend my title? Do I need to take some time off? Am I going to come back? So what are your plans?
I'm definitely going to take some time off. Again, I cannot go through 7-month prep and start another prep and destroy myself. So what I'm going to do is probably take 2 years off. 2028 Worlds is when I'm looking at. The two-year off season, push my body weight as high as possible while still feeling good. Enjoy life, which is very important for me. And make sure I build a platform to the goals which I mentioned earlier on. And just accomplish something. And I think I will return to the stage in 2028. That's the timeline I've set. Same timeline as you, I believe. You said 2027 or 2028?
That's a good question. The initial plan is 2027, but I'm also letting myself take longer if I think that it'll, like, if it requires more time for me to get to the level, like to see visible gains, not necessarily the same level I had because it went so good.
Yeah.
But even half of that, if I can do that before 2027, fantastic. If it requires till 2028, then I'll keep putting in the work. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in conclusion, I don't want to make the same mistake I made. I want to allow a longer period of time, probably a 9-month prep, where I balance life as well as, get out of that post-com phase in a much better mental state. So I want to leave a 9-month start in January and then go into Worlds in 2028. That's what my roadmap looks like. So yeah, hopefully I'll return to the world stage with a much better package. Hopefully with bigger arms, because the arms is something I want to bring up. And yeah, defend the title.
I love it. Well, I can't wait to see it happen. I think it's going to be a really good journey, and I know that we're going to see some epic battles between you and others. And also, I really can't wait to see you to continue to do the work you're doing to uplift the natural bodybuilding community, especially in India. And I know you're not alone, so like I've met a lot of awesome people from that region who are coming out of the woodworks now. So big shout out to Alexander Mohan. He was like I mentioned, the guy I met who kind of came fresh off the airplane while his pregnant wife couldn't go with him. So he was flying solo to compete in Taiwan for his pro debut. I saw him judging at WNBF India after that. So I know there's so many people who are involved in the community. Shout out to Kyle, and who is, in partnership with Yuva running WNBF India. Yuva, who's coaching so many people. Mongol, who I got to compete with, who had a fantastic season. And shout out to yourself. I know that, and there's many more. I've only met a small fraction of the people who are who share a similar message and vision to you guys. And I really do hope that some of those cultural challenges and that competitive nature can be something that you guys can also come together around and be able to promote the sport and hopefully promote a more constructive mindset. Because, if everyone is trying to tear down everyone else, then no one gets ahead. So
yeah,
I think
live and live.
Yes, exactly. So I have high hopes because there's really good people behind it, and there is a will and a passion, and there seems to be a support. Like some of the natural bodybuilding shows in India have 600 to 800 competitors. Like the demand is there.
It is there.
So
polygraph is gonna be tough. I'll tell you that.
That's right. Oh, it has been. Having behind the scenes, I've talked to some of the challenges of actually just doing drug testing and managing the logistics of these shows. So hats off to all the effort that goes on behind the scenes that we don't see and that often goes underappreciated. So I just want to say a big thank you, a huge congratulations, Shreenath, and to all the listeners. I hope you've enjoyed this series of interviews that we've done with WNBF pros from all walks of life, from all around the world, from different divisions. We managed to cover a few of the categories that we did not cover when I did the 2023 interviews. We got the new classic division, and we touched on women's bodybuilding, while last time I had a fit body champion, as well as Natalie Hayes, the female bodybuilding champion. So there's so much going on. Women's bodybuilding is growing, bodybuilding in Asia is growing, and natural bodybuilding is growing as a whole. And I'm hopefully giving you some exposure to that, and that you can do the same, dear listener. Keep supporting us, because we want to provide an alternative, not that's better, but that is perhaps a little more sustainable and something where you have to make less compromises in your life. So it is about being pro-natural, not anti-enhanced, because we're all brothers and sisters in iron. And thank you for listening. And once again, if you want to support the show, thumbs up, like, subscribe. If you want to be a super supporter, check out massresearchreview.com. And of course, visit our friends over at Elite FTS and use our code MRR10. And the final thing I'll say is, Shreenath, thank you for your time, your energy, and being the man you are.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for the opportunity.